in about 30 seconds. Jim Johnson, are you all set? Ready to go?
I am. Sorry, I had someone on the phone.
No, that's all right. We're going to be down David and Nancy tonight. I think you all saw the text.
So Ben, before we start, Tim just texted me the fire up at
Meeting of the Walpole Town Select Board. The time is after 7 p.m. We will get started. First things first, if you could please stand. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will remind everybody watching at home that we are operating under the governor's authorized remote participation for all public boards due to the emergency declaration order issued on March 12, 2020. Therefore, every vote will be taken via roll call vote. And we'll dive right in here with the first order of business under appointments, which is with Police Chief Carmichael and his quarterly update. Chief, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us tonight. We'll jump right into the quarterly report. Animal Control Officer John Splain retired this year, and we just want to recognize and thank John for his over 20 years of service to the town of Walpole. Very dependable employee and did a lot of work for us here at the department. Always willing to go above and beyond to the things that are really expected of him. So we wish John all the best in his, I think, second or third retirement, but we wish John all the best. Dispatcher Victoria McVicker, she left the department. She is now in the Randolph Police Academy. She was one of those dispatchers that always had the goal of becoming a police officer, and we wish Vicki the best. She's going to do a great job as a police officer. Dispatcher John Holmes started this past week. He's the replacement for Vicki, and we met John from the Dover Police Department. He came over here, and he's been working. He's working right now and doing a good job so far. Police Officer Kelsey Kelly Bernal, who you all appointed this past month, she's working on her FTO program right now for the next 12 weeks. And tonight, as you know, we're going to be introducing you to Liam O'Donnell, who is our next candidate for a police officer. Under commendations, Michelle Slavin was recognized this month for excellence in crisis intervention and mental health. This was given to us by the Norfolk County Crisis Intervention Team, and Michelle is one of those people. She was recognized because of the extra time and effort that she puts into the mental health issues that we deal with, and she has just done a great job. She's extremely compassionate, spends all that extra time working with people, and she also her and Officer Hart run our community crisis intervention team, which is a collaboration of stakeholders in the town like DMH, Riverside, NAMI, Walpole PD, parents, clinicians, and that kind of thing. And she's done a great job, has been one of our first CIT trained officers on the department. So much deserved there. We did recognize International Women's Day, speaking of that, on March 8th. And we recognized our 6 female police officers now, 4 dispatchers, 3 civilian staff, and our 7 crossing guards. They all make such an impact on the community and such a contribution to the operations of the department, so we thank them. Some of the programs, we have another new program that we just started. It's called the Residential Home Safety Initiative, And this actually is Michelle Slavin as well. She is one of our crime prevention officers, and the department will go out and do home assessments, security assessments of residences, and identify areas that could be an issue for public safety. And if anybody's interested in that, they can call the department, leave a message for Michelle Slavin, and she will go out and help people with that. We also have the Walpole PD Going Away program. When people leave, go on vacation or on a trip, they can let us know, and we'll keep an eye on the house while they're gone. So that works out very well. People are usually very appreciative of that. Gives them a little peace of mind when they're away, and it works out very well. Home for Little Wanderers, on the Longview Farm issue, we have been having continued meetings with Home for Little Wanderers, with DC, with DCF, and different organizations that are affiliated with them. It's been going well. We've continued this partnership. We're working on an MOA right now that we want to have DCF sign off on, kind of putting the initiatives that we do with the home into a document and signing off on that document, and kind of just putting the partnership that we have right now in writing. Calls are down there significantly still. They are still working with a 1-to-1 ratio with some of the at-risk kids. There has been a program where they've been doing some replacements where kids are replaced in different homes. And I did follow up with them on that to make sure that this is successful, where if a kid is not a good fit for the home, maybe having issues with other peers or staff, and making sure that if they are replaced in another home, that is successful and it's working out, and I've been assured that it has. So that gives us a little peace of mind there. And we are still working very well, our liaisons, Officer Van Ness and Officer Bird, with them allowing us input and identifying kids who are at risk, who leave, if they have complications, that it's identified, and that's been working out well so far. And I'll continue to update the board on that as we go forward. Mental health crisis continues to be one of the most significant public safety issues. I did send the board some statistics on that. Going back to 2020, Lieutenant White pulled up some of the data as far as calls that are associated with mental crisis, and some of the underlying issues that are associated with mental health crisis. And we were at about 611 calls last year, and we're already at 100 this year. So that remains a very significant issue for us, and something that we're going to continue to mitigate as things go forward. 2020 was a difficult year for sure. I mean, the pandemic, caused a lot of additional problems, I think, and a lot of people were struggling. So I thank our officers for the great job that they've been doing to mitigate issues of public mental illness. The drug overdose situation, as you know, we've been tracking that since 2011. Since then, we've had 250 overdoses, 42 fatalities, on 112 administrations of naloxone, either from the police department, fire department, or a bystander. Since in 2021, so far, we've had 4 overdoses with 1 fatality, unfortunately. I did send the board a copy of our strategic plan, which we've been using during the FinCom meetings and everything, just trying to underlie some of the planning that the department is looking for and going ahead. We do have 10 identified strategies that we have in the executive summary. I won't go over those unless you have questions about that, but those are things that we'll continue to try and focus on and address as we go forward. Another huge issue right now is police reform. As you know, the governor signed the police reform bill on the last day of 2020. It created Chapter 253, the Acts of 2020, and it's called an Act Relative to Justice, Equality, and Accountability in Law Enforcement in the Commonwealth. There is a lot to this, and what we've done here internally through our command staff, through our range officers, through our use of force officers, we have amended the vast majority of our policies and procedures. To this point, we've made all of the changes that we possibly can until the commission is established and more mandates are kind of placed upon us in the future. I'll run down some of the policies and procedures that we have already addressed: our deadly force, serious bodily injury, the issue of chokeholds, officer-involved injury or death, de-escalation techniques, shooting at or from motor vehicles, which we did just have a deadly force situation the other day, use of force demonstrations, duty to intervene for excessive force, termination of force, officer reporting excessive force, and protection from harassment, no-knock search warrants, which was a significant change, non-biased policing, racial profiling, and then soon to be our school resource officer policy, detail and overtime accountability, and community engagement, which was the plan that we established based on the federal standards, which almost mirror the state standard, with a couple of different changes in that. But that was necessary for us to implement, because if we do file for federal grants, and when we do that, you need to have this policy in place. There are some policies that are mandated and some that are discretionary, and we've accepted all 10 of those policies within our own policy here in the station. As far as critical incidents, I'll just mention one. This happened this week. We had a situation where we got a report of an erratic operator. That individual is located by one of our officers on Common Street, and the vehicle fled the officer after he initiated his traffic, his emergency lights and siren. The vehicle went into our high school parking lot and started driving erratically in circles around our high school parking lot. It went back out onto Common Street. And once it got on Common Street, there was 2 different times when a motor vehicle stop was conducted and the vehicle operator fled, and ultimately failed to stop for a red light at Washington Street and Common, and then took a right onto Darwell Lane, drove onto some private property over lawns, and at that point, multiple other units had shown up, and we were able to start to contain that vehicle that was fleeing. A couple of officers approached. They approached from the front, and unfortunately, this operator made a deliberate and conscious effort to run 2 of our police officers over. And if I was there, it was only by the grace of God and by their athleticism, I would say, that allowed them to get out of the path of that motor vehicle. One of our officers literally had his hands on the hood when she hit the accelerator and deliberately tried to run them over. And what happened was she made it between 2 police cars that had containment, and took a left turn onto Common Street, where the officer was on the driver's side of the vehicle and almost got struck as well. So this was certainly a deadly force situation. This could have ended a lot worse than it did. And I owe it to our officers for showing incredible restraint and professionalism in how they handled this. This woman did take a left on Common Street. There was a Good Samaritan, a witness who observed the entire incident unfold before his eyes, and he made a split-second decision to intervene. He came on the wrong side of the road, and there was a head-on collision, and both vehicles had come to a rest. And so officers were able to approach and remove that person from the vehicle and place her under arrest. If this vehicle continued on in the state that this person was in, there would have very likely been a tragedy that we were dealing with. And just the way all of this played out, it's unfortunate. And this poor guy, this citizen, he sacrificed his own safety and his own personal property because he saw that the community could be endangered. And while I don't recommend people do that, it is quite commendable that somebody put himself in that type of situation, a citizen, and we do appreciate that. It did, at the end of the day, it ended quietly and safely, and that's all that matters to us. So Officer Murphy, Sergeant Becker, and Sergeant Benner were 3 of the officers that were involved, and I commend them for a job well done on that. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'm remiss I didn't mention at the outset of the meeting that David Salvatore and Nancy McKenzie aren't going to be joining us tonight. They couldn't make the meeting, but we have the 3 members here. So, Jim O'Neill, any questions or comments for Chief Carmichael?
I just have 2 comments. The first being, the obvious one, which is, thank goodness nobody was hurt in that situation that your officers and yourself had to deal with the other day on Common Street. And that includes the Good Samaritan who jumped in, as you pointed out, and we owe that person a debt of gratitude as well. The situation, as you said, it could have been a lot worse. But what it reminds me of is that, every day when our police officers are on the street, anything could happen. And this situation could have been one where somebody got badly hurt. I think your point on their training, their professionalism, their athleticism, but most importantly, their restraint, I think really did prevent what could have been a significant tragedy. We've seen in other communities when officers didn't show restraint, what that results in. And I won't pass judgment on that other than to say, in this case, thankfully, we're not dealing with that. And it's a real credit to the officers that are involved that they were able to show that kind of restraint, very good judgment. It's a really unfortunate incident, but thankfully it ended with no one being hurt. And so, my personal thanks to the officers involved and the Good Samaritan for bringing that situation to close without, anybody getting seriously hurt, which they could have been.
Thank you.
The second thing I wanted to mention, Ben, is the chief's been doing a really great job, and his staff have been doing a really great job on this police reform bill that came through the State House. It's a lot of change, a lot of policies needing to be updated, training needed to be conducted, and frankly, at a time where there's a lot of disruption already with the world we live in with COVID and all that. You guys have dealt with that very, very well, and you've done a good job keeping us updated on that. And I appreciate all those updates, and the fact that you've been able to, address many of the things that were in that reform bill through things you already had in flight with the community policing work and the policing in the 21st century work that you've been driving so hard. I think you guys are running a really great department down there, and I just have to commend you, Chief, for the work you're doing in making sure that we're compliant with the laws, as tough as that may be. And it is heartening to know that we were down that path quite a distance because of what you already had in flight. So really well done on that. And, my thanks to you and the team.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Mark?
Yeah, I would say I agree with Jim O'Neill on everything he just said. I think the department is doing a very good job. I'm always amazed when we see the stats on mental health calls. They more than doubled between 2019 and 2020, and they're staying just as high, it looks like, in 2021. And I appreciate all the work that the police department and the town is doing to try to deal with people who are in crisis and get them the kind of help that they need. I'm just wondering if the state is recognizing the same problem, and do they have any new ideas of programs that can be brought online to help people who are clearly in a crisis situation with mental health issues and a family crisis when that happens?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think one of the big trends across Massachusetts right now is the crisis intervention training and crisis intervention teams. Ironically, the Walpole Police Department started our crisis intervention team about 20 years ago, when we only had, 12 to maybe 20 mental health type calls a year. And when we talk about mental health, some of what we're measuring is stuff like, suicidal ideation, just an altered mental status. Sometimes it's relative to substance abuse and that kind of thing. And it's really exploded. I know last year was unique too because of the pandemic and people were struggling. We saw that every day here in the department. I think this is definitely a statewide issue. It's probably a national issue right now for a lot of different reasons. Here in Walpole, we do have a lot of group homes and special needs schools and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that that's where all of our calls are associated, but it does add to our calls. And with the community policing philosophy of engaging people with that problem-oriented policing, even where you try and identify underlying issues and you try and prevent recurring issues, there's a lot of time spent in dealing with each one of those cases. Michelle Slave and the officers, she was recognized specifically because of that, the time that she spends with that individual to try and get them the help they need, the resources they need. Chief Bailey's on here now. The firefighters, the fire department, great partners as far as dealing with the mental health crisis. When we're dealing with it, we're dealing with all those calls together, and then firefighters, paramedics are transporting those people to a facility to get evaluated and get the help that they need. But across, I think the biggest resource is going to be those crisis intervention teams, because our team here, it's not just the police department, it's the different entities, social workers, DMH, Riverside, clinicians from the high school, clinicians from Longview, all of those stakeholders that it takes to deal with these mental health crisis type calls are all coming together. And many times when they meet, they talk about case studies, about different situations that occurred and what we could have done better and what we can improve upon. So there's, here in Walpole, we've signed on to that One Mind campaign from the IACP, where we establish policies for mental health. We train on it very hard. We have most of the department, over 2/3 of the department is now trained in crisis intervention training, de-escalation techniques, and all that kind of thing. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the focus right now really is on CIT and rolling that out in every community, making sure everybody's trained and recognizing it and dealing with it in a certain way.
Thanks, Chief.
Welcome, sir.
Great, thanks, Mark. And I would echo everything that both Jim and Mark said, Chief. And just add again that the police reform legislation has added kind of a whole new dimension to what we're doing here in Walpole and to your job and the job of your staff. So I do appreciate and would echo the transparency and the communication that we've had on that. It's been really great, and I hope that can continue. I know it's something that's going to be ongoing for some time. So thank you for that. I know it takes a lot of effort, from you and your staff to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move. Jim Johnson, anything to add on the police quarterly update?
No, the officers, it was really impressive what they did over the last week. And I commend them. And the chief's doing a great work with the deputy and the lieutenants and Judy especially too. So keep everything up.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so the next item that you have here, Chief, is reviewer candidate Liam O'Donnell.
Yes, so Liam's on there, and it's my honor to recommend Liam to the position of police officer, and looking for the board's consideration. He would be our 46th police officer on the Walpole Police Department. And Mr. O'Donnell, he is a native of North Attleboro, Massachusetts. He has a bachelor's degree from Stetson University in Florida. He's currently living up in Beverly with his girlfriend. And after he graduated from college, he signed up to be a member of the Massachusetts National Guard. His MOS is military police. He's assigned to the 772nd Military Police Company. And as part of that, part of the National Guard, there's a protection partnership program where they send National Guard members to the police academy. and Liam was selected as one of the members from his unit to attend the police academy. He went out, he went through the Massachusetts State Police Academy out in, what part, where is it? New Braintree, Massachusetts. And while he was there, right before the end, he actually got activated for one of the recent missions down to DC when to help with security operations of the Capitol building. And he still has one more day. He actually has 1 day left at the police academy. He has been working at the Essex County Sheriff's Department as well. So he's an overachiever. And he was somebody that we interviewed. When we did the interview with him, we did it on a Zoom meeting, and he was actually down in DC when we spoke to him. And he just did, we were all impressed. Our command staff, everybody was impressed with him. Everybody we've spoken to has given him high praise, and somebody who has a very positive attitude and a compassionate young man who we think will certainly fit into the mold of the Walpole Police Department. We've been very impressed with him. He understands the community policing philosophy, and I think he'll make a great addition to the department. So we appreciate your consideration in appointing him as a police officer.
Okay, thanks, Chief. So, Mr. O'Donnell, usually the way we do this is to have you say a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your application for the position, and then, we'll go around each of the board members if they have any questions or comments prior to taking a vote. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in applying for this position, please.
Good evening, Selectmen. It's a great opportunity to be here. Appreciate your time tonight. So I was raised in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. My dad, Kevin, owns a machine shop in Mansfield, so I've been involved with the family business before I went to college. I have two older sisters. One serves in the Coast Guard, a younger brother, Johnny, who's big into baseball. Went to school down in Florida, studied communication and media relations, and from there enlisted in the National Guard as a military police officer, which was a great opportunity to start, serving my country in the state of Massachusetts. Once I got back, I got hired by the Essex County Sheriff's Department. So I did some work as a correctional officer for a while before I got the opportunity to go to the State Police Municipal Academy, which was really, one of my dream come true. My dream since I was a kid was to be a police officer. And once I got that opportunity, I seized it and, went to train every day, happy to get through the training. And once I did that, I knew Walpole was a non-civil service department, and I had heard nothing but great things, both about the department and the town as well. Several of my mentors are in law enforcement. They spoke very highly of the department, and I jumped on the opportunity, and everyone I've met here has been super friendly and welcoming, and I'm very excited to get to know the town even better and get to know the community and be a positive impact.
Great, thank you. We really appreciate you being with us tonight, and glad to hear from you and the chief about the application. Jim O'Neill, why don't we start with you, please?
Sure. Liam, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you on the force and getting to know you. Obviously, the chief has given us the background, and it's impressive. And what you just took us through is also impressive. Thank you for your service and for your family, who apparently also have been active in the military. So thank you.
My pleasure, sir.
A couple things that are just really interesting. You mentioned the mentors that you've had along the way. You're coming into a department that's rich with mentors, from the chief through his command staff and elsewhere. This is a leadership-rich team that we have in place here in Walpole, and I hope you take full advantage of learning from the chief and his team. And particularly as we're going through, the changes that we are witnessing in policing right now. And you heard us talking a little while ago about the situation on Common Street and the amazing restraint that the officers displayed. A lot to learn there. And so I hope you really pay attention to, what those officers did on that situation. And certainly that's the culture that the chief's been driving. So that's all really important stuff. On a lighter note, I'm thrilled to see that you're a baseball instructor. Baseball is a game near and dear to my heart. And the fact that you work with the 8 to 12-year-olds, I think, is huge, because you'll also learn that the chief is big into, you heard basketball earlier, we got street hockey, you got bike riding, you got all kinds of stuff, right? And so you're going to fit right in, and welcome aboard. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. Mark?
Yeah, Liam, I would also say welcome aboard. You know, one of the things that I hate about Zoom is you don't get to meet people in person, get a chance to shake their hand. So at some point we'll meet in person. I look forward to shaking your hand. I think you're going to do a great job here for the Walpole Police Department. I'm also a mentor for the high school robotics team. Did I hear you say you're machine shop qualified?
I'm not as skilled as some of my families in the family business. I know how to put the tool in and get the machine to go, but you know, I have some experience, but nothing crazy.
Okay, if I hear the high school kids are having trouble with the lathe or the mill, I may ask them to reach out to you once you're settled in, not right away. But you know, robotics is very different this year with COVID, but normally the kids are actively building robots, and they compete across New England and with teams from around the world. It's quite impressive what they can do. And sometimes they're looking for a little bit of help, and I think you may be a great mentor for the kids. Again, once you're settled in and get up to speed with the police department. So again, welcome, and look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, sir.
Great. And I would just add, Liam, you know, it's nice, I think, having you in to talk and have this discussion and ask questions on an evening when Chief Carmichael is giving his quarterly update, and we can hear about all the things going on in town, the updates on not only the statistics for responses, but also hear more about, you know, Chief touched on the strategic plan, he touched on community policing, and really some of the things that make Walpole Police Department, you know, special in our region, in our area, and the things that we really strive for. So happy to have you on board, and I appreciate you again coming in tonight. So if we could have a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion to appoint Liam O'Donnell to the position of police officer with the Walpole Police Department.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben? Aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Congratulations, Officer O'Donnell.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Have a good evening. All right, moving right along. I see we have Fire Chief Bailey's joined us here. Chief, if we could start off with your quarterly update, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And sorry I was running a little late. We had a reported fire at the preserve, so sorry about that. My last quarterly with you folks was on November 24th. Since then, COVID has still taken up a lot of our time. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. All of the members here have been vaccinated with the Moderna vaccine over the last month and a half. Our call volume continues to increase. We're up 11% where we were last year, which is 73 calls more than where we were at this time last year. So that's in the first 68 days of the year. Ambulance runs, as I've mentioned to you on many occasions, continue to be an issue with the time factors that are involved with it, and not having the ability to turn around the crews faster to have them available here back in town. The ambulance runs themselves are longer on average by 20 to 30 minutes, depending on which hospital we transport to. The current account in the ambulance account, current balance in the ambulance account is $2,089,000. Fiscal year 21 to date, we've brought in $885,000. Fire prevention, without saying, has been extremely busy, especially with all the projects that are still on the docket and on the table with various boards throughout town. And I'm working with the deputy and helping assist him in those endeavors as we speak. The budget, as I mentioned last month in a previous meeting with you folks, with the board, is I'm still in about $170,000 deficit. That has remained pretty steady from where it was when I came before you a month ago. We are continuing to watch that. I have given Jim updates on that as we've moved forward over the last couple of weeks. Grants, we have several. We had the CARES Relief Fund. That was an automatic stimulus fund payment of $27,000 that we had received. This was based on our share of Medicare FFS, which is fees for service, for reimbursements in 2019. Most of those funds have been expended on purchases for COVID-19 to date. We also have a CESF grant, which is the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant. Our department had requested $24,708. The police department had also made a similar request. Ours was for $12,708 for personal protective equipment and $12,000 for station cleaning and sterilization. We have them come in and do both stations. They come in and disinfect us once a month. They do every single room, every nook and cranny of our building, including the apparatus, and that has been going very well. We are on track with the spending for this grant. We've also applied for 3 other grants, a fire safety equipment grant for $15,000, which we have not received yet. It is still in process with EOPS. This is, we'll be looking to purchase much needed equipment for the department, which includes 2 cold water immersion suits, PPV fans, which is positive pressure ventilation fans for some of the larger occupancies that we now have in town, portable scene lighting, and an accountability board for accountability at all of our major scenes. This is something that we've been looking to get for some time now, and these funds will allow us to do that. We also applied for the AFG grant, which I came before the board a couple of months ago, and that was, the total for that was $779,000. It was $660,000 for the engine, and then the remainder was for equipment to outfit that engine. That grant has been submitted. It is being peer reviewed, and when we hear one way or the other, I will let the board know what the determination was on that. This past week, we filed for the Shaffer Grant, which I was before the board 2 weeks ago on. That is for the hiring of 8 additional firefighters that the federal government will pick up the tab for. That grant was submitted last Friday, and we are again waiting to see where that turns out. We also received our annual SAFE and Senior SAFE grants. The SAFE grant was for $5,281. The Senior SAFE grant was for $2,680. Those allow us to do programs with both the youngest children in the school system as well as our seniors. And those are ongoing programs which we hope to get back out in the field with in the next couple of months, or at least by the beginning of next school year, when things start to get back to a little bit more normal. On the training side of things, we're doing a tremendous amount of driver training. We have a lot of new folks that aren't allowed to drive. Our driver training program is very extensive, and it takes them quite some time to get through, especially all of the apparatus. We try to get them on the first 2 pieces first, and then work down to some of the pieces that don't go out as often later on. So we're very actively working with that. We also did ice rescue training over the last month. COVID-19 updates, which is a constantly evolving thing, and the changes that come about, we have to update our folks, so we're constantly on top of that. And we've also been doing new building familiarizations. We try to do 2 buildings a month with the crews and get in and actually familiarize, re-familiarize. Many of these we've already been into before, but things do change, occupancies change, build-outs change, so we try to stay on top of that. It was difficult during COVID when it was at its highest point, but in the last month we've been able to get back in and start doing those. On the personnel front, firefighter EMT Ken Tracy retired on January 30th, after 33 years of service with the department. I have 2 injuries currently, and they both appear that they're going to be long-term injuries. We are monitoring both of them, and I am in touch with them on a regular basis with their progress. And as far as the community goes, open burning is open. It opened on January 15th. It'll go till May 1st. For those that are looking to do outdoor burning, I would advise that they do it sooner rather than later. As we get into the month of April, it gets dicey with the weather conditions. If it stays dry like it has been this past week, we're already starting to see an uptick, even with some of the snow cover, of brush fires and out of control fires in other communities. And I would just caution that, April can be dicey as far as being able to get it done. And I will take any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Chief. So we'll just, we'll go around the board here. Jim O'Neill, any questions or comments?
I have just some comments, Chief. Obviously, things busy for you down there. I'm glad to hear that the department is fully vaccinated. That's really important and great to hear. This has been one of the big concerns we've had, you know, all the way along with COVID, with the department living in close quarters and so forth, and the potential for several firefighters out at once. So that's a huge step forward. Really glad to hear that. On the grants front, you know, I'm really impressed with the number of grants you've applied for, and hopefully some of those will come through. Of course, the big one is the Shaffer Grant. So glad to hear that's now in, and look forward to hearing the outcome on that. And you know, I think that's really it for me. So thanks, Chief. Appreciate you coming in tonight. Good update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Mark?
Yeah, Chief, thanks for coming in. I do also appreciate all the effort you and the department have put in on the Shaffer Grant for additional firefighters through the federal government, and for that grant. I don't remember the acronym for it, but for the engine and equipment, I think that's great. Anything we can do to get a grant to cover some of our costs, sort of saving us money on those items and making it available for future expenditures that we need. I was wondering, you mentioned, you know, restarting the program to go do walkarounds and inspections at some of the newer buildings. It is amazing how many new big projects have come on. Siemens, you know, all the apartment buildings, the 40Bs. Do you feel like that's going to continue to take quite a bit of time as you go forward to really learn what those buildings are about and what the issues are potentially at each of them?
Yes, I do expect it to take some time, and there'll probably be multiple visits to some of the buildings. Some of them we've actually had calls to that we've identified some issues with the way we respond, and we've dealt with those with the building property owners. So those are all things that they do take time. We also do the buildings that have been around for a long time, because they too change. So we have several structures in town, so it's for our safety as well as the safety of the occupants that are there.
Yeah, and I just think that's a great idea, to get out into the buildings as often as you can. And I know that you and Chief Carmichael are both actively involved with looking at the plans for the 40B in South Walpole. If that gets built, you're both really going to have to be on top of that building and the process in the neighborhood, because that's another building that will have a huge impact on the neighborhood. And, you know, I appreciate all you're doing to stay on top of, you know, especially that new project.
Yes, it will. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. And again, I would just echo what Jim and Mark said, Chief, and I know that you and I have talked recently about a lot of these items. I just really appreciate all the work that goes in, and I know that Deputy Chief Barry does a lot of work with the grants and putting all that in. I mean, every dollar counts, and I know that we do what we can at the town level, and it never seems like it's enough, and it isn't enough. So the ability to go out and get that money has really been, as you know, I'm sure, really a lifesaver. Really appreciate all the work that goes into that. I know it is. It's a heavy lift for sure. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next order of business, we have the candidate for firefighter. Is that correct, Chief?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm not sure if he's joined us.
No, he's actually, I have to do it with my computer, so I'm going to go to the other room with him right now. So
okay.
just bear with me for 1 second.
No problem. No problem at all. No problem at all. I'm just looking all over the screen here. I got, you know, there's like 16 boxes. I think I'm missing somebody. No problem.
A little tour of the fire station here.
A little bit. All right. So I will do the introduction and then I will let Kevin speak to you, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please, go ahead. Thank you.
So this evening I will be bringing a candidate before the board, Kevin Brady. Kevin has been a full-time firefighter since 2012 with both the towns of Norfolk and Hingham. He's a Mass Fire Academy graduate, class of 200. He's a state certified paramedic. He also has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, bachelor's degree in fire science, and he's almost completed his master's degree in public administration. He holds several certifications with Pro Board certification, and he's also a recruit instructor at the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy. And I would like to introduce you to Kevin Brady.
Good evening.
Hi, Mr. Brady. How are you doing this evening?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good. So what we usually do here is have you say a little bit about yourself, up to this point, and why you're applying to the position, and then we'll go around to the select board members for other questions or comments. Nothing too crazy. So why don't you go ahead, if you would please, just introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you're looking at in this job here.
So my name is Kevin Brady. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in the town of Hingham. Went to school at Bridgewater State University. And once I graduated from the school, I moved out to Norfolk, started my career at the fire service. When I was in Norfolk, I had a great experience there, but I kind of looked to go to a bigger department with more growth, opportunities for advancements, and so forth. The first thing that came to mind was to try and go back to where I grew up. So I applied to the town of Hingham. And since getting there, I had a great career there, but I just kind of always felt like I built a home in this area more than back down there. So I'm looking to come back to the town, a bigger department with a lot of growth in the town and a future opportunities. So yeah, since I've been in the fire service, I got my degree in criminal justice at Bridgewater. I went back to school at Emory College, got my bachelor's in fire science, and then have further gone on to obtain almost a master's in public administration.
Great. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you being with us here tonight. Jim O'Neill?
Yeah, hi, Kevin. It's a pleasure to meet you and welcome to the town, and look forward to working with you as you become a firefighter here in Walpole. Very impressed with your background. Your academic background is particularly noteworthy, but you've got a long history in the firefighting business as well. So we're fortunate to have you coming and joining us here in Walpole, and I wish you the best. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Mark?
Hi, Kevin. Welcome to Walpole. I enjoyed reading through your resume and all the materials you sent. You seem to be one of those people who literally has been in, every area. You started as a dispatcher, so you sort of
yes.
realized what kind of calls came in, and then worked your way through the fire academy and EMT and all of that. So it looks like you have a great background. Walpole is lucky to have you, and I wish you good luck in Walpole.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you again, Mr. Brady. So I would hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kevin Brady to the position of firefighter paramedic with the Walpole Fire Department with an effective date of March 29th, 2021.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Being there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben? Aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Congratulations, firefighter.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, welcome to Walpole and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Take care.
And Chief Bailey, thank you. I think that's it, unless you have anything else this evening.
That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Chief. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Okay, moving on under new business, we have a vote to accept and sign the general obligation municipal purpose loan bonds. Jim Johnson, if you could just give us a quick overview of that.
Sure. This is actually I have Jody on the call, and Jody, I know you.
Oh, Jody, there you are. Yeah.
Finally,
Sorry.
I really would like both of them to kind of explain it. They did a lot of the heavy lifting, so Jody, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay. So as you know, we went out to bid last month. We were looking to get $4.9 million. We had 6 bids, and of the 6, obviously we went with the best one, and ended up at a net interest rate of
1.062.
Thank you. They're 14-year bonds. The last payment will be made September 2034. We initially went out for the generators, 3 years of street improvements, and in the playing fields. Because we got such a good rate, we received a $333,000 premium, which basically covered the cost of the emergency generators and most of one of the road improvements. So very happy about this, and did great interest rate, and it was a good experience for, I think, both Lisa and I, our first time. So very pleased.
Great, fantastic.
And just to add, Lisa and Jody did an excellent job with this. And they can't be commended enough. This was above and beyond what I was expecting for a rate. So good job, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. Lisa, do you have anything to add?
I don't. We don't do this alone. We also have a financial advisor, Hilltop Securities, that have really guided us through the whole process, and they were great support for us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any comment or questions from the board members?
Just a quick comment, Ben. So first of all, thank you. I mean, really, really well done, both of you. That rate, I think, is also indicative of, some of the strong financial planning and management that's been going on. And the fact that we've got, the stabilization fund where it needs to be and our other reserves where they need to be. And we've got the second highest bond rating that you can have, all of which contributes to that lower borrowing cost, which is really where we want to be. So it's an even bigger statement on the work you guys have been doing to set us up for, long-term financial success. And I just really appreciate that. So thanks to both of you.
You're welcome.
Great. So I would hear a motion.
All right, it's a very long motion.
Oh, you're not kidding. All right.
I think I have to read the whole thing. I, Mark Gallivan, the clerk of the Select Board of the Town of Walpole, Massachusetts, certify that at the meeting of the board held on March 9th, 2021. So do we need to vote this first and then I read the statement, or should I read the statement first and then we vote it?
I think the statement first, right, ladies?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll continue. Of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, and at which a quorum was present. The following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear on the official record of the board in my custody. Voted that the sale of $4,590,000 worth of general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2021 bonds of the town dated March 18th, 2021. The bonds to FHN Financial Capital Markets at the price of $4,992,444.96 in accrued interest, if any, is hereby approved and confirmed. The bond shall be payable on September 1st of the years in the principal amounts and bear interest at the respective rates as followed. 2021, $265,000, 4%. 2022, $270,000, 4%. 2023, $285,000, 4%. 2024, $295,000, 4%. 2025, $305,000, 4%. 2026, $315,000, 4%. 2027, $330,000, 4%. 2028, $340,000, 4%. 2029, $350,000, 4%. 2030, $355,000, 1%. 2031, $360,000, 1.1%. 2032, $365,000, 1.2%, 3033, $375,000, 1.35%, 2034, $380,000, 1.45%. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated February 11th, 2021, and a final official statement dated February 23rd, 2021, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the bond shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions as are set forth in the official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and select board be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a continuing disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefit of the holders of the bonds from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct town treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continue disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax-exempt status of the bonds and to comply with relevant security laws. Further voted that each member of the select board, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be deemed by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy therefore posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or the municipal building that the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.03 2B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations or decisions in connection with the sale of the bonds were taken in executive session, all in accordance with General Law Chapter 30A, Section 18-25, as amended, further suspended, supplemented, or modified by executive order of the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, dated March 12th, 2020. I'm done.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 3-0-0. Thank you again, Jody and Lisa, for your excellent work on this. Really very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Okay. Next item under new business is number 2, vote to award a bid contract 2021-14 for the Edward J. Delaney Filter Rehabilitation Sandblasting Project. I see that we have Director of Public Works Rick Mattson and the Superintendent of Sewer and Water Bernie Marshall with us tonight. Jim Johnson, if you want to start us off here, please.
Yeah, sure. I actually want to introduce Bernie. He doesn't get a chance to come before you folks too many times. Bernie, do you want to give a quick introduction of what this does and what your recommendation was?
Sure, Jim. Thank you, and thank you, distinguished board members, for having me tonight. Basically, the Delaney Treatment Facility has eight filters. 2 have already been rehabbed, and we're looking to rehab in pairs the remaining 6 of these of the filters. The Delaney plant services up to 4 million gallons of water a day, and basically what this project is they will be the filters will be stripped out, and we'll have this painting and sandblasting contractor come in, sandblast them, paint them, and then we have another contractor coming in, and we will be placing all new items inside the filter, and it'll work to have cleaner and better water for the town of Walpole.
So Ben, with that, I'd recommend favorable action to award bid contract number 2021-14, the EJD Filter Rehab Sandblasting Project to John W. Egan Co., based in West Newton at 3 Border Street, for a total bid of $82,000.
Great. Any further questions from the board? Comment?
I just say thanks, Bernie, for everything you're doing over there and keeping things running the way they've been running. I always hear good things about what's happening over there, and I know this is sort of the quiet time for you guys before you ramp up in the summer. So appreciate all the hard work.
Thanks, Mark. Excellent team. Excellent team. That's all I have to say.
And with that, I'll make a motion to award bid contract number 2021-14 for Edward J. Delaney Filter Rehabilitation Sandblasting Project to John W. Egan Company, Inc., in the amount of $82,000.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, proceed with a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye?
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 3-0-0.
So Ben, just before Bernie and Rick jumps off, will you guys hang on, because we're set to discuss the warrant, and water and sewer budgets are up next, just in case anybody has any questions. So stand by. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yes, so last item under new business, number 3, is a vote to sign town meeting warrant, and then discussion of possible articles. Since Bernie and Rick are with us, Jim, if you don't mind, why don't we just take those 2 articles and discuss with them while they're here?
Sure. So just the articles that I'm asking for the board to consider tonight is Articles 8, 10, 14, 16, and 20. So 8 and 10 are the sewer and water FY22 operating budgets. Finance Committee discussed those a few weeks ago. They voted favorable action on each one. I believe I gave all of you the memos regarding both of those. Obviously, the rates aren't set yet. The sewer and water commissioners will likely set those in probably May or June, sometime after town meeting. But what the Finance Committee did vote on is the funding, and we just have to finalize the sources with the sewer and water commissioners. The funding that's being requested is for the water side, $5.7 million, just over that, and $5.3 million. And that's just more or less the expenditures. The revenue side will be included in the motion itself. Again, we got to work out with the commissioners what they're comfortable with the rate. If they don't use any of the retained earnings, they're set to see increases of close to 12%. I don't anticipate them going along with a rate increase of 12%. Just to give you some perspective, if they use about $200,000 from each water retained earnings and sewer retained earnings, that would lower the rate increase to about 5% or so. So retained earnings is healthy right now. It closed out back in August for the sewer at just over close to $2.2 million, and water closed out close to $2.3 million. So Bernie and Rick, do you guys have anything to add before we open it up?
No, I think we presented a good, healthy, fiscally responsible budget. That's what you have in front of us, and we're going forward. The board is going to look at their rates, and we'll adjust as we see fit.
Rick, on your end, do you have anything to add? Are you fine? Taking that as a no, so I'll open it up to the board.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Any questions or comments, Jim O'Neill?
Yeah, just a comment. I'm aware of the challenge you've been having with the rates, and certainly don't want to see a 12% rate increase, as Jim just pointed out. That's a lot. But we have got to be a little more disciplined about how we set the rates and make sure that we're not taken from retained earnings. So my hope is that over the next couple of budgeting cycles, that you get the rates to the point where you're recovering your costs. Whether they go up or go down, the goal should be to cover the costs and get some contribution to retained earnings. The retained earnings is really about the replacement costs in the future for pipes in the ground and things like that. And we just need to be aware of that. We don't want to be, taking money out of retained earnings. So I think you're making a good step forward right now. This year, you need to keep that up and get us back to the point where you don't have to be dipping into the retained earnings.
I agree.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Mark?
I've looked through the budget. I think it looks good. I want to sort of add on to what Jim just said. I think one of the issues that most people don't think about with the water budget especially is that to some degree you're at the mercy of the weather. When it's a hot, dry summer, people use a lot of water, and you have a lot of opportunities to cover your base costs and hopefully end up with some retained earnings. And in some years, it's a pretty wet year, and you don't sort of sell as much water as you would expect it to. So I think there's really a process there. And I agree with Jim. I think it's important to set the budget and set the rates such that you recover all your costs and hopefully have a little surplus. But I think that's a balancing act. And I think those of us, who have seen a lot of your budgets realize that it's a balancing act. And until the year's over and you can count how many gallons of water you're sold, you don't really know for sure. So I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure everybody listening is reminded of that as well.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep, it's a great point, Mark. It's a great point. So we look forward to the Sewer and Water Committee getting together again and having that discussion, and that's all something that'll be coming out in the coming weeks or month, hopefully, leading into the spring here and then after town meeting.
So if everybody feels comfortable, I would make a motion for favorable action on Article 8, Fiscal Year 22 Water Enterprise Fund Appropriation.
Second?
The motion is second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 3-0-0 for favorable action on Article 8. Would you like to do Article 9 as well, Mark?
Article 10.
Sure. I'll make a motion for favorable action on Article 10, Fiscal Year 22 Sewer Enterprise Fund Appropriation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Favorable action on Article 10. Thank you, Mark. All right, and thanks, Bernie. Thanks, Rick, for being on tonight. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the additional information and everything you guys are doing for the town.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Chairman.
Anytime.
So,
All right.
next article up is Article 14, which is the unpaid bills from prior fiscal years. At this time, we don't have any, and Finance Committee voted no action, 14-0-0 last night.
All right, I'll make a motion for no action on Article 14, prior year's unpaid bills.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 3-0-0 for no action on Article 14.
article up is the article is a citizens petition, Article 16, which proposes to discontinue the use of plastic bags in retail establishments. Finance Committee voted 10-4-0 on that last evening. The petitioner was able to provide the Finance Committee with some background information. She surveyed, I think it was 35 businesses in town. I think the 4 that voted against it may have been concerned about the impact on small businesses. I've seen this across the state. You know, I was recently down in Plymouth over the weekend, stopped at the grocery store there, and they had all paper bags there, market baskets. So it's something that's happening across the state. So
yeah, Jim. So I guess both. I'm just looking at the warrant article list here. So 16 plastic bags was favorable action. Okay, and so I watched the meeting last night. You know, I would open it to Jim O'Neill and Mark as well to get their input. I know that we want to work through these. Jim Johnson, get some of these done so that we don't have a backlog coming into April. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that we only have 3 members of the board here tonight, and I think that's generally okay for some of these items that are very straightforward. But given that these are citizens petitions, some of the dissent that was heard, even though it was in the extreme minority, I would really feel more comfortable personally if we voted on these at our next meeting and hopefully have both Nancy McKenzie and David Salvatore present. But I would hear from the rest of the board members on that point. Jim, you want to weigh in?
It's a valid point, Ben. I'm perfectly willing to defer to the next meeting. I hope Jim, that doesn't create any undue burden on you. But I think it's a fair point that on the slam dunks, I don't think it's a huge deal to not have everybody here. But the ones that have some dissent, I do think it makes a difference to have the full board.
And the other thing that I want to point out, and sorry, Mark, that I want to hear from you as well, is that with Article 20, the funds and the Norfolk County retirement, I know that the FinCom, and for those that watched the meeting last night, FinCom voted 14-0-0 no action. But the petitioner did indicate that they were going to go back, get additional information, answer the questions that FinCom had, and that they intended to come back before FinCom for reconsideration. Obviously, we can go back and reconsider a vote as well, just like FinCom, but it seems more reasonable just to give it a little bit of time. So, Mark, what's your input there, please?
Yeah, on the Article 16, use of plastic bags, I'm fine with waiting. I am pretty comfortable with that article. As Jim mentioned, down the Cape, they've eliminated plastic bags in almost all the communities. And, you see people carry in a reusable bag, or they use the paper products. So, I would have thought the Cape switching over away from plastic would have been a bigger deal. But, when I'm down the Cape, it doesn't seem to be an issue to anybody. Holding that discussion next week is fine. The same with Article 20. I did watch all of Article 20, and I'll just give you my perspective. There's 2 parts to Article 20. One is recognizing that while the Norfolk County retirement plan is a good plan and it has good returns, the state plan has better returns, and that's true over 5, 10, and 34 years. Surprisingly, it was not true last year. Norfolk County beat pretty much every plan in the state, including the state plan, sort of as a one-of-a-kind deal. So I do agree that I'd really like to see us dig in on that and maybe work with Norfolk County to find out how to take advantage of some of the things that can be done with letting the state invest some of that money, or look at other alternatives. I think that's a good thing, and I would suggest maybe that we consider, once we're through town meeting, get finance committee, select board, and any other groups in town that are interested, and sort of talk about the long-term implications of a better rate of return. The second part of that motion, though, was talking about, and this bothered me, their suggestion was that the select board could make a vote to leave the Norfolk County Retirement Plan, and that we could then join the state plan. And I would say that that has been proven to be completely false and misleading. I don't know if they meant it that way, but that's the way I see it. It's not an easy path to move forward and leave Norfolk County Retirement Plan and join the state plan. And I think a lot of things were said last night that are just unfounded. And I do look forward to FinCom finishing that discussion. I have some pretty strong opinions on what was said, and recognize that if we want to do something different, it's going to be a real process and a real piece of work for us to do. And we may want to consider something, but I think a lot of the information last night was misleading on Article 20.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Mark. So, Jim Johnson, I know I would rather deal with these as quickly as possible as well. Does this put you in too much of a bind if we put this to the next meeting?
Sure, we can push this up. I mean,
okay. I know we prefer.
Yeah, the select board generally doesn't have any. The deadline for me mostly is the booklet for town meeting, okay, and then the packet information for town meeting members. So yeah, the booklet, the select board really doesn't have anything in it. It's just myself and Mark who have to put it together with. So we do have some time, and you know, if you want to see if the petitioner does come back, I can always post a joint meeting with the select board, and you can ask some of your questions then and there when he's presenting to FinCom if you'd like. So
yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I would also comment that anybody who has an interest in this topic should really go and watch FinCom's meeting that was last night. I thought FinCom did a great job talking about the various issues, identifying problems, identifying, things that could be an upside along with things that were negative. So I think FinCom had a really great meeting and did a great job digging through a complex issue. And, I applaud FinCom for all the research that they did.
Yeah, I think really the only thing, Mark Sullivan made a great comment last night, and I couldn't agree with it more. If this is something that the select board and the finance committee really wants to pursue, you have to look at it from all angles on this Article 20, because there's so many impacts. It's the employees, it's the taxpayers, it's the different retirement systems. We'd have to create a whole separate municipality. It wouldn't be the town of Walpole. It's going to be town of Walpole Retirement Board. It's a municipality. Council's ruled on that, and so is the state. So it's a whole separate entity. And really, if you want to dig into it, let's put in a capital request for 50 or 100,000. I don't know what the number is, and hire some independent group that specializes in this. I'd have to find that through maybe Labor Council, or maybe our auditors would know of someone to really dig into this. This is like a multi-year exploratory that we need to go. We need to explore it a lot further than just a few months before town meeting. Yeah, the implications are huge for the town. So a capital budget article would be the way to go, and break it out over and let an expert look into it and report back to you with the findings. So, yeah, it's just my 2 cents.
And Jim, I agree completely with you. That's what bothered me about last night's presentation, implying that this was a 30-day process, when I agree with you. I think it's a multi-year effort, with needing to bring in some expertise to help understand what the issues are and what the upside and the downside is.
Great.
Okay.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, thanks for the additional information, and we'll need to do what we need to do, if it's a joint meeting or having a special meeting just to address some of these articles. We can do that. So I appreciate it. And then we also have a vote to sign the warrant as well. Jim Johnson.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to sign the warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, the roll call vote. Jim.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
And aye. The motion passes 3-0 to sign the spring town meeting warrant 2021. All right.
Can I do consent agenda?
Oh, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept with gratitude the following donation. Multiple donors to the Recreation Department Smiling Eyes Financial Assistance Program, $127. Big thank you. That lets kids who can't otherwise afford it attend rec programs, which is really a great thing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes with gratitude 3-0-0.
I'll also make a motion to approve the minutes of February 23rd, 2021 as presented in our packet.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 3-0-0 to approve the minutes. Town Administrator's update. Mr. Jim Johnson.
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Couple items to run through here with you guys. COVID update. This time there are 1,717 confirmed cases in Walpole, 1,671 have completed monitoring. We have 46 active cases. 2 weeks ago, that number was 71, so that's going in the right direction. FinCom continues to meet, as we just discussed, work its way through the budget process. I'm optimistic that they will have a balanced budget ready to go in the next week or two. And the school superintendent and I have been working pretty hard to come to. There was a hiccup with the school budget, and I think we're on the same page now. We're going to go forward with a joint recommendation to the committee next week, late next week. Outdoor dining. We've started to get requests once again to set up outdoor dining downtown. Mark from the Raven's Nest and Tessie was in yesterday asking if he could do something for St. Patrick's Day in that small little peninsula area near the traffic control box and right close to the Raven's Nest. I told him he could, but he'd need to come forward probably in the next couple meetings. I think we need to renew our lease agreements with them, Jalapenos and a few others. So just for St. Patrick's Day, I told him I was comfortable with it, unless board members have a problem. But Patrick Duchesne, he's our new Community and Economic Development Director. He's working on this, and he's going to come forward with a comprehensive list on the 23rd for you folks to consider, so we can start this again on April 1st again, formally. ACO, I've been working with the Norwood General Manager to finalize an intermunicipal agreement for the Animal Control Officer with him and both town council from Norwood and from Walpole. Tony is actually bringing this matter before his board tonight. He expects that they're going to vote in favor of it. I know I've kept you folks updated on this one, so I think I'm going to bring it forward in 2 weeks once we finalize everything. The funding's just about right. The setup now would have, again, 2 officers. Hopefully in year 2, if it works out, we'll expand that to 3, basically a ACO and a deputy, and maybe in a year or 2, another deputy, just to ensure that Norwood and Walpole have the adequate coverage that we need. The cost is about the same as to what I have in the budget now. We treat it the same as we treat the Veteran Service Officer agreement with Medfield. Basically, we pay Norwood to handle all the services. He'd be an employee of the town of Norwood. He'd fall under their OPEB liability, their health insurance, but would cover both towns, just as John and Henry did so many years. So more to come on that one. I'm pretty pleased that we're making progress on that. Speaking of Veteran Services Officer, I'm pleased to report that we have come to terms on the new Veteran Services agent. He's set to start in a few weeks. I'd like to bring him before your board on March 23rd. I was looking over the charter. You do have appointment authority over him. I know you've kind of let me into, I've been really patient, and I think that has paid off. This person, he has a lot of experience. He's a veteran, of course, and I think he was really personable. Kerry thought he was great. I was really impressed with him. So was Patrick. So we're going to bring him before you guys in a couple of weeks, which I know the veterans in town will be pleased to have a full person once again. Just an update on Old Town Hall, kind of where we stand with all of that. Over the past year plus, we've sent out 2 RFPs to lease the building. Most recently this past winter. Each time we've received 0 responses. In January, the state announced their one-stop grant application. Patrick had the great idea of, trying to see if we could get some money for Old Town Hall. This will allow cities and towns to expand their economic priorities throughout the state and get some funding in place. So we basically put in a request to them they'd like it narrowed down to either design or construction. Obviously, we don't have design money yet because we don't know what we're going to do there. So a few years ago, Schwartz Silva, who designed the fire station, had a lot of interest in that building. They saw a lot of potential. So they've agreed to kind of work with us pro bono at the time and apply for a full $100,000 grant to do some design work for that building, and then we can go for the construction money, or at least have it ready to go if we send it out to bid again. So that will save people interested in a lot of money, obviously. The application window for the grant is May 3rd and June 4th. We're planning on putting it in the first week in May to see if we can get something. I'm really optimistic that we can get some funds for that building and start to put some good ideas out there, because obviously no one's interested in it right now. The timing's not great. Last thing, school building update. I met with Bridget and some folks from her team today, and we discussed some, basically what's the actual cost of this potential debt exclusion going to be. They asked me to run some numbers and get a cost impact. I needed some questions answered from them. You know, how long do you want to borrow? What kind of borrowing? What's the amount? So I received some of those answers today. They asked me for 3 different scenarios, borrowing at 75, 80, and 85 million dollars. So I'm going to be getting that in the next few days, working with Jody and Dennis. So the school building committee will actually be discussing this next Tuesday. So more to come on that. I just wanted to let the board know they're reaching out to us to get them some numbers. Actually, you know, what's it going to cost the average taxpayer in town? We've actually come up with a debt calculator where I can hand each one of you. We can put it out on the town website, and you can actually plug in your assessed value of your home, and this is what it's going to cost in today's dollars. So I think that'll be a useful tool for you know, them going forward, and for the taxpayers of town to know what's the actual cost impact to me, and you know, if they vote yes or if they vote no. So any questions?
Yeah. No, that's fantastic, Jim, and you know, I'm glad to hear that, you know, the animal control officer and the veterans agent and all these openings that we've had, you know, and one would expect some difficulties through the pandemic and whatnot, and we've actually been able to fill them. So I think that's fantastic. So well done by you and your staff. I know it took a lot of work finding these folks, coordinating these agreements with the other towns, and I know that we're doing that on a couple of fronts. It's exciting to hear about the old town hall news. You know, I certainly look forward to updates there. But certainly, and leaving it not to bury the lead, but the discussions on the debt exclusion for the middle school project certainly is going to be foremost in everyone's minds, particularly after Springtown meeting takes place. And I couldn't agree more with everything you said. I think people can see the need, and all of that is well understood. The school committee and building committee have done a great job of getting the word out there about why we're pursuing this, and how the need is so great, the specific details surrounding that. This is certainly the next step. As transparent as we can be, and as much information as we can give people as it develops, you know, as the details are sort of set in stone, so to speak. I think it's going to be helpful, and people are going to be looking for that. So I'm glad we're getting started on that now. Any other questions or comments, O'Neill?
Nothing for me, Ben.
And Mark?
No, nothing at this time.
Okay. Well, that is all the business that's before us tonight. Unless anybody has any other comments or questions, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. We'll proceed with a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 3-0-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.